The air in Jerusalem's old city should be thrumming. It's the week of Pascha, of Easter, and by all historical precedent, these limestone corridors should be a torrent of humanity, a symphony of languages. Aramaic chants, Latin hymns, Greek psalms, the excited chatter of pilgrims from Manila to Minneapolis. The scent of street food, za'atar bread and roasting nuts should be wrestling with the sacred aroma of frankincense spilling from the open doors of ancient churches. But in the spring of 2025, the symphony is silenced. An unsettling quiet descends, a quiet so profound it feels like a presence in itself. The narrow cobbled streets, usually choked with jubilant crowds for Easter processions, are eerily sparse. A lone Franciscan friar, his brown robes a stark contrast against the pale stone, walks the Via Dolorosa. His footsteps echo, a solitary rhythm where 1,000 should be. The vendors in the souk, their shops filled with olive-wood crucifixes and mother-of-pearl nativities, stand in their doorways, their calls to customers muted, their expressions a mixture of boredom and deep-seated anxiety. This isn't merely a slow season for tourism. It is a stark, almost palpable retreat from the world's most famous pilgrimage. This phenomenon forces us to ask a difficult question. Why are the faithful turning away from the very heart of their sacred narrative? For nearly 2 millennia, the gravitational pull of this city has been an elemental force in Christianity. From the 4th century pilgrim Egeria, whose detailed letters give us a priceless account of Holy Week liturgies, to the medieval crusaders and the Victorian explorers, the journey to Jerusalem has been a defining act of faith. It is a walk through a living text, a chance to trace the final steps of Jesus from the Garden of Gethsemane to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This year, however, the text feels unread, its pages unturned. The unprecedented lull in pilgrimage isn't just a statistic on a tourism board's report. It's a flashing red light, signaling profound shifts in the delicate ecosystem of the region. Of course, the immediate cause is no secret. A fresh wave of geopolitical tensions, amplified by the relentless 24-hour global news cycle, has painted the region in shades of risk and instability. Embassies have issued travel advisories, and insurance companies have raised their premiums. The spiritual aspiration to walk where Jesus walked has been abruptly reframed as a risk calculation. A family from Brazil who saved for a decade cancels their trip. A church group from South Korea postpones indefinitely. These are understandable, rational decisions, but to focus solely on the canceled flights and empty hotel rooms is to miss the deeper story. The absence of foreign pilgrims has pulled back a curtain, exposing a much more endemic and tragic narrative that has been unfolding for decades, largely unseen by the outside world. The quiet is not just the absence of tourists, it is the amplification of a silence that has been growing from within. The dwindling number of international visitors is a symptom, a visible marker of a much deeper erosion affecting the city's own Christian soul. Is this just a temporary blip, a fleeting reaction to the latest headlines? Or are we witnessing the visible manifestation of a much deeper, more tragic story unfolding for Jerusalem's own indigenous Christian community, the very people who have kept this faith alive in its birthplace for 2,000 years? Building on the unsettling quiet of Easter 2025, we must look beyond the tourists and pilgrims to the very bedrock of Christian life in Jerusalem, its indigenous community. We step off the hushed Via Dolorosa and into a small shack in the Christian quarter. The air inside is cool and smells of aged wood and beeswax. Meet Elias, a Greek Orthodox shopkeeper whose family has sold religious artifacts in this very spot since his great-grandfather's time. He gestures to his shelves, usually bustling with buyers, now gathering dust. The olive-wood carvings of the Last Supper and the hand-painted icons of the Theotokos seem to stare out into an empty room. It's not just the pilgrims, he tells us, his voice a low rasp, tinged with a profound resignation that seems as old as the stones outside. The pilgrims, they come, they go. They are the river, but the wellspring is running dry. Our young people, they see no future here. They get their education and they are leaving. For Canada, for Australia, for Germany, for good. Elias's lament is not mere anecdote, it is the human voice of a stark demographic reality. Academic research from institutions like the Pew Research Center and detailed reports from local Christian non-governmental organizations such as Sabeel and Bethlehem University paint a relentless and unambiguous picture of demographic decline. In the middle of the 20th century, during the British Mandate period, Christians constituted a significant and vibrant minority in Jerusalem, making up nearly 20% of the city's population. Today, that number has collapsed to less than 2%. This exodus is not the result of a single event, but a slow, grinding process fueled by a complex and interconnected web of pressures. The push factors are numerous and well documented. There is the crushing economic hardship, exacerbated by the political situation, which often isolates East Jerusalem from its traditional West Bank markets. There are the severely limited opportunities for professional advancement and the immense difficulty in obtaining building permits for a growing family. There are the ongoing contentious land confiscations and the legal battles over property that have plagued Christian institutions for decades. Above all, there is the pervasive feeling of being a small, politically voiceless minority caught in the devastating crossfire of a much larger national and religious conflict. The historical timeline of this decline is a story of repeated displacement. The 1948 war, which Palestinians call the Nakba or catastrophe, led to the first major wave of Christian emigration. The 1967 Six-Day War and the subsequent occupation of East Jerusalem created new borders, new legal statuses, and a new set of existential challenges, separating families and cutting off communities from their religious and economic centers. The violence of the First and Second Intifadas further accelerated the trend, convincing many that a peaceful and prosperous future for their children lay elsewhere. These are not mere statistics. These are families, churches, and traditions that have sustained a continuous, unbroken Christian presence in this land since the day of Pentecost. They are the living stones, a term they use for themselves, drawn from the first epistle of Peter, signifying a community of faith, not just a collection of historical monuments. Now, these living stones face an existential threat. What does it mean for the Holy Land, a place revered by billions, when its native Christian voices, the Aramaic-speaking Syriac Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox who have guarded the Holy Sepulchre for centuries, the Armenian community with its ancient quarter, are slowly silenced? From the personal stories of Elias and the stark demographic data, we arrive at a critical juncture. What is the future of Christian heritage in a Jerusalem where its indigenous community is dwindling? The very soul of the city is at stake. Is it destined to become a magnificent open-air museum, a Christian theme park curated for foreign tourists, its holy sites maintained like relics under glass, devoid of the living, breathing community that gave them meaning? Or can this 2,000-year-old presence be preserved? In ancient monasteries and modern community centers, dedicated individuals are working tirelessly to preserve this fragile tapestry. Here, in a conference room overlooking the old city walls, a young Palestinian Christian woman, an architect by training, presents a plan. She speaks not of grand political solutions, but of practical, tangible hope. She is part of an initiative supported by a coalition of local churches and international bodies that aims to provide affordable housing and small business loans to young Christian families. "We are not asking for charity," she says, her voice clear and steady. "We are asking for a chance to build a future in our own home, to be architects of our own destiny, not relics of someone else's history." This is the front line of the struggle. Initiatives like the Living Stones Project, supported by various denominations, work to connect pilgrims with local Christian families, transforming tourism from a purely economic transaction into an act of solidarity. The theological debate underpinning these efforts is intense and vital. Can Jerusalem remain the spiritual heart of Christianity if its physical Christian presence is reduced to a few clergy and the caretakers of holy sites? For centuries, the major churches, Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Armenian, have been not just religious bodies, but vast social institutions. They are among the largest landowners in the city. They run schools that educate thousands of Christian and Muslim children. They operate hospitals and social services that serve the entire community. Their historical role is codified in the complex Status Quo Agreement, an Ottoman decree from 1852 that meticulously governs the rights and responsibilities of each denomination at the holy sites. This delicate, centuries-old balance was designed for a multipolar, multi-faith city. The erosion of one of its core pillars threatens the entire structure. The question, therefore evolves from mere numbers to the very character of the city. Can Jerusalem retain its unique identity as a shared holy space for all three Abrahamic faiths, or will it fracture under the pressure of competing, singular narratives? The quiet Easter of 2025 is not an ending, but a powerful call to action. It is a summons for global Christianity to look beyond the stones and see the people. It is a challenge for the political powers that control the city to recognize that its sanctity is inseparable from its human diversity. And it is a profound question for all of us who care about history, culture, and faith. The struggle to maintain a Christian presence in Jerusalem is not just preserving the past. It is about fighting for a future where this city can be a beacon of coexistence rather than a symbol of division. It urges us to consider not just who visits Jerusalem, but who calls it home, and what the entire world loses if that ancient, resilient voice finally fades into silence.